in the early morning hours, while an entire neighborhood slept. 2 lives were quietly taken inside what should have been the safest place of all, their own home. Tonight, a haunting question hangs in the air. Who walked away while Spencer and Monique Tepe never got the chance to wake up? Police say this case is no longer just about what happened inside that house. It's about a single figure captured on camera, moving through the darkness, and the possibility that someone watching right now may recognize exactly who that person is. Before we go any further, if you value clear, respectful, and in-depth true crime reporting, take a moment to like this video. Share it to help spread awareness, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss important updates on cases like this. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching from and what your first thoughts are about this newly released Person of Interest video. Because sometimes the smallest detail makes the biggest difference. Spencer and Monique Tepe were a young married couple living in the Wineland Park area of Columbus, Ohio. By all public accounts, they were devoted partners, loving parents, and deeply connected to their family and community. In the final days of December, just days before the new year, their lives were violently cut short. Columbus police say the couple was murdered inside their home during the early morning hours of December 30th. The crime happened quietly, without immediate public awareness, and by the time the news broke, shock had already begun rippling through the city and far beyond it. What made this case stand out almost immediately was not just the brutality of the crime but the silence surrounding it. Few details were released. No suspect was named. And investigators made it clear from the start that this would not be a rushed investigation. As the story spread nationwide, attention intensified. A loving couple to very young children, and no clear explanation as to why this happened or who could be responsible. Then, nearly a week into the investigation, police released something rare in an active case like this: a surveillance video showing a person of interest. A single figure, captured walking near the Tepe home during the same narrow window investigators believe the murders occurred. That release shifted the case from a private tragedy to a public plea for help. Investigators believe the murders of Spencer and Monique Tepe occurred during a very specific and unsettling window of time. According to Columbus police, the couple was killed between 2 o'clock and 5 a.m. on the morning of December 30th. Those 3 hours, when most people are asleep and the streets are nearly empty, have now become the focus of the entire investigation. Police say the crime took place on the 2nd floor of the Tepe home. Beyond that, few details have been publicly confirmed. Authorities have not released the exact cause of death, nor have they said how the crime was carried out. What is clear is that whatever happened inside that house ended 2 lives before sunrise. Sometime after those early morning hours, the murders were discovered. How the scene was found, and by whom, has not been disclosed, an omission that suggests investigators are protecting critical details known only to the killer. What we do know is this: during that same narrow time frame, surveillance cameras in the area captured a man walking near the Tepe residence. His hood was up, his head was down, and his presence, at that exact moment in time, was enough for police to later label him a person of interest. Every confirmed fact in this case points back to those 3 hours, and to the question of who was moving through that neighborhood while Spencer and Monique never left their home alive. To understand why this crime happened, investigators often begin with victimology, not to assign blame, but to search for motive. Spencer and Monique Tepe were described by those closest to them as warm, kind, and deeply devoted to their family. Friends and relatives spoke of Spencer as calm, steady, and dependable. Monique was remembered as charming, strong, and full of life. Together, they were raising 2 young children, one just 4 years old, the other only 1. In just a few weeks, the couple would have celebrated their 5th wedding anniversary. By all outward appearances, they were building a life rooted in stability, love, and routine. And that matters. Because when victims show no obvious signs of high-risk behavior or public conflict, investigators are forced to look closer at personal relationships, daily routines, and anyone who may have had access to their lives beyond what the public could see. Police have not indicated that Spencer or Monique were involved in anything that would place them in immediate danger. There have been no public claims of threats, disputes, or ongoing conflicts. That absence of information leaves to possibilities. Either the motive is deeply personal and not yet visible, or it is something entirely unexpected. Nearly 1 week into the investigation, Columbus police made a calculated decision. They released surveillance video to the public. The footage shows a man walking near the Tepe home during the same early morning hours. Investigators believe the murders occurred. His hood is pulled up. His head is angled downward. His face is not clearly visible. Police have not named this individual a suspect. Instead, they have labeled him a person of interest, a term that carries weight while stopping short of accusation. What stands out is not just the person's appearance, but the timing. This is the only piece of visual evidence police have publicly shared. That suggests its importance, but also its limitations. The video does not show a crime being committed. It does not show the individual entering or leaving the home. What it shows is present someone in the immediate area at a time when 2 people were being killed inside a nearby house. When law enforcement releases footage like this, it is often for one of 3 reasons: to generate tips, to pressure someone into coming forward, or to confirm an identity investigators may already suspect. What the video does not do is provide answers on its own. It raises questions. Who was this person? Why were they there at that hour? And does someone recognize the way they walk, dress, or move through the dark? Throughout this investigation, Columbus police have repeated one consistent message: they are working carefully, not quickly. Investigators have confirmed they are receiving numerous tips, many of them prompted by the release of the surveillance video. At the same time, they have chosen not to release key details about the crime itself. No cause of death has been made public, no weapon has been discussed, and no interviews with detectives have been granted to the media. That level of restraint is intentional. When law enforcement withholds information in a case like this, it often means they are protecting evidence that only the killer would know. Those details can later be used to verify confessions, eliminate false tips, or strengthen a case before charges are filed. Police have also made it clear that speed is not their priority. Their focus is accuracy, building a case that can stand up in court, not just in headlines. This approach suggests complexity. It suggests multiple moving parts. And it suggests that investigators may be closer to answers than the public realizes, but not close enough to act without risk. One of the most difficult questions in this case is also the most important why. At this stage, investigators have not publicly identified a motive. And without confirmed details about how the crime was committed, any conclusion would be premature. However, law enforcement typically evaluates motive through broad, evidence-based categories rather than assumptions. One possibility is a targeted attack, a crime driven by a personal connection to the victims. These cases often involve someone who knew the victim's routines or had access to their environment. But so far, police have not indicated that Spencer or Monique were facing any known threats. Another possibility is an opportunistic crime, where timing and circumstance intersected in a tragic way. These cases often leave behind signs of forced entry or theft. though investigators have not confirmed whether that occurred here. There is also the possibility of mistaken targeting, where victims are harmed not because of who they are, but because of where they were. These cases are rare but devastating. What matters most is this: none of these theories can be confirmed or ruled out with the information currently available. And investigators have been careful not to guide the public toward any single narrative. Despite the growing attention on this case, many of the most critical questions remain unanswered. Who was the person captured on surveillance video, and why were they in that neighborhood during those early morning hours? Was there forced entry into the home, or did the person responsible have a way inside? Was this crime planned, or did it unfold unexpectedly? And perhaps most importantly, was Spencer and Monique Tepe's home the intended target? Or were they caught in something meant for someone else? Police have not said how the crime was discovered, who found the couple, or what evidence was recovered at the scene. Each of those missing details represents information investigators believe is too sensitive to release. For the public, those gaps are unsettling. But for law enforcement, they are often necessary. What remains clear is that this case is not stagnant. Tips continue to come in. Surveillance footage continues to be reviewed. And somewhere, someone may be holding a piece of information that turns uncertainty into accountability. At the center of this case are not just unanswered questions, but two young children whose lives have been permanently altered. Spencer and Monique Tepe were not headlines to their family, they were parents, siblings, sons, and daughters. In the aftermath of this crime, their children are now being cared for by loved ones, surrounded by support, but facing a loss that cannot be explained or undone. True crime carries a responsibility to inform without exploiting, to analyze without accusing, and to remember that behind every investigation are real people living with irreversible consequences. This is not just a story about finding a suspect. It is about seeking justice in a way that honors the lives that were taken and protects the integrity of the truth. As public attention grows, so does the need for restraint, accuracy, and empathy, because speculation can cause harm just as easily as silence. The murders of Spencer and Monique Tepe remain unsolved, but they are not forgotten. Somewhere, within the hours between 2 and 5 in the morning, something happened that forever changed a family and shook an entire community. And now, with the release of a person of interest video, investigators are asking the public to look closer not with suspicion, but with awareness. If you recognize the individual seen in the surveillance footage, or if you have any information that could help investigators, you are urged to contact law enforcement or submit a tip anonymously through Crime Stoppers. Justice in cases like this rarely arrives all at once. It comes piece by piece, through patience, persistence, and the willingness of someone to speak up. Until then, this case remains open not just in the files of investigators, but in the hearts of those waiting for answers. I'm Detective B. If you're fascinated by real life, mysteries, and criminal investigations, tap like, subscribe, and share your opinion in the comments. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what you think about today's case. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, in true crime, the line between fact and perception is often thinner than we realize.